Hey everyone, welcome or welcome back to another episode of the One of Us podcast. We're going to start off a little bit interesting today. We're going to be talking about Victoria. I'm just kidding. We're going to be talking about how Victoria moves in 2 days and she has not packed a single thing. Victoria, what do you have to say for yourself?
I'm sorry to my family who will be picking up all the slack because I have not packed anything. So
Vic is moving to her own apartment. Applause, applause. In the comments say, Vic, you got this. She has to pack everything up in the next couple days and do that.
look, I will say, luckily I don't have a lot. Everything I own is literally in this room I'm currently in. I just feel sorry to the person that has to carry the box of books because that's gonna suck. So shout out to that person. I'll get you some dinner that night. But yeah, everyone else.
How many books would you say you have, Vic?
There's way too many. I have them. They're literally piled all onto my 5-tier shelf, and then they're all over the top of my dresser, and then I have some on my nightstand. So yeah, no, just a few.
Hey, I think books are a good thing to collect. If you're going to collect anything, let it be books. Because some people connect weird things like spoons. What are those things? Thimbles? Who even use those?
I can't judge people because so I don't know if you guys know him. My dad actually got me one, and I love it. It's a little sea turtle. But okay, you guys tell me if you collect any things, but back in high school, there used to be a Goodwill by my house, and I always used to stop in there. But I used to get these decorative pill holders. Have you guys seen those things? Like they're holders for your pills. I didn't have any pills. I just liked them because they were cute. Like I had one that was a bicycle, and when you opened up the front basket, that's where like you would put it. But I'd put like my rings or my earrings in there, and I had probably like 30, 40, 50 of those things.
Where are they now?
My mom's house.
So never to be found again.
Never to be seen. They're probably being sold.
Who my knows? Mom collects shot glasses, but she doesn't drink.
She just likes the tiny cups.
Does she at least put juice or something in it?
No. Well, we'll use it like once a year to maybe have like a drink, maybe like New Year's or something, and everyone gets to pick like their different shot glass. It's normally like people get it to her like when they travel from somewhere, like a specific city or country. And so we'll do that, but I always thought that was silly. I used to collect quarters.
Oh, I used to collect quarters.
When I used to go to Cuba, I used to collect little seashells.
Juan grew up in a household where you couldn't have things that weren't.
Why are you slandering my family?
So Juan,
it's true.
I never collected anything. I feel like I was a part of every like little kid where we collected like Pokemon cards and stuff like that, but we never really knew how to play. We just had them because they look cool.
Well, as you guys already know, Victoria doesn't know yet. I'm just kidding. But as you guys watching this already know, the topic for today is about seeking counsel, because you guys have read the thumbnail. You guys have read the description.
At least you know whatever I have to say today will be unprepared and from the heart, okay?
But we got some good stuff for you guys. Some of us, we prepared. We're going to talk. We're going to chat it out because I think this is an important topic. Just what that looks like, because I think it can get a little muddy in the water.
I want to start off today because ultimately, giving advice and receiving advice is a big part of our Christian walk. What's the greatest advice you've ever received? Don't have to go into a huge, long story. Just rapid fire. And that's not from the Bible, from someone actually.
That's hard because I feel like I haven't heard advice in a while.
So someone needs counsel. Someone needs counsel up there.
Top of my head. That's not like super Christian-y. That's what I mean. I'm trying to think.
A good piece of advice I got when I was living in Reno was when it snows, shovel the snow while it's snowing. So the next morning you're not like breaking your back when it's all solid rock.
I think for me, I don't know why, the first thing that came to my head was when I was in college and a mentor of mine, Samantha, she kind of walked me through, I was having like all of these like thoughts that were really just like boggling me down, and really just stressing me out just about life, people, relationships in general. And she was just talking to me about having alternate thoughts and how she kept a journal that when she believed a lie or when she thought a lie of just like who she was, her worth, or different things like that she would write in her journal like an alternate thought. No, actually, this is what God says about me. No, actually, this is the truth. And that kind of helped her rewire her brain to like catch lies just from the enemy in the flesh and to like cover those with truths from the word. So I remember that was really impactful for me.
This is like a silly one because I was trying to think of over the years, but this is actually from a girl named Rathika. This was her high school quote. It was "Stop stressing and start finessing," and I think that really struck home with me.
I just remembered an advice that I got, and it's funny because I just shared it to someone else. When you're learning to drive, you should have like the right line of your like lane in the center of your dash, and then you know that you're driving like in the middle.
Tati, I love how yours is related to driving.
Tati needs it with her driving.
I'm a great driver.
If I had to rank drivers from best to worst, I would rank it based on how I'm seeing everyone in the screen. Juan, Victoria, Crystal, Tati.
Crystal, you would not last one day in LA driving. You would not last one day. My defensive driving skills are like crazy now because of how bad. I now know the areas to
It's the
avoid.
passenger princess in all of you.
That's who we're meant to be. I guess on the flip side, has there been like worst advice that you've ever received?
You mean bad advice?
Yes.
I feel like I get bad advice like every day because I think the world is just filled with it. Maybe it's not bad advice per se, but it's more like misguided advice.
I will say probably some of the worst advice, and people still say it today, is follow your heart. No, don't do that. That's a recipe for disaster.
Why? Because the heart's deceitful. Boom, 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 boom.
So I think this kind of shows like where do you look for advice? Like the church, people who have a relationship with the Lord, people who are a little bit older than you, or even walking in the same season as you, or, the world. Because a lot of the advice that we've talked about that has been bad has been from that sphere. And not to say that unbelievers can't give good advice, it's just there's a different value system, a different motivation, a different intention behind it. That's why I always recommend people like even going to therapy or counseling to seek a like-minded Christian therapist or counselor, because it can be difficult because the lens through which they're giving counsel is just a lot different.
I think you're right, Crystal, that, where are you finding advice? I think first and foremost, most of your wisdom should be found in the Bible. I mean, you just read through Proverbs and there's just like a plethora of knowledge just there. But I think a lot of people kind of wonder, how do you connect that knowledge? Because you can read the Bible and obviously God's always going to speak with you. But what do you guys think about like mentorship and people pouring into your life? Do you think that's something that's easy to find at church?
I think it's hard because it depends on the church. I know the church that I had attended, they do encourage kind of like that fellowship and mentorship. I do like that question though, Juan, because like something I always think of, I thought it more in the workforce, but it's definitely like a spiritual thing too. Is like you should always be like in the middle, because I feel like you know enough to teach someone, but you could always learn to like ask someone for some advice.
I was going to say in our church, they're starting a pilot program for like a discipleship course where, they would have like older men go and then like pair up with some of the younger men, and the same for women. It's a smaller church, so they're just like starting that process and like finding a curriculum and like a process that works. But I know something the girls and I were a part of back in Reno when we went to a church out there was sharing lives. And it was great. It was based off of, what is it, Titus 2? But just basically about like older women instructing younger women, older men instructing younger men, and kind of that format. And it was a lot of weeks. I'd say it was like 3 months to 4 months of like meeting. It was like at least 12 meetups. And each time we got together, it was like every Saturday?
I think they did it every other Saturday, or it might have been every Saturday, where each week we had like a different topic that they were going to mentor or disciple us in.
And it was great. It was one of the greatest things I've ever been a part of. I loved it so much. There was topics like, talking about family, talking about finances. There was a cooking class, which we all needed. But it was just like so good and so wide, talking about just like spiritual elements as well. So that was really cool. So if your church has something like that, we really recommend being a part of it. It was such a stretching and growing process. But if your church doesn't, I think you can still find people. I've had plenty of mentors in like other clubs or organizations, or even just like meeting a friend of a friend and just connecting over something. And it doesn't have to be so robotic of like, you are my mentor now, I'm your mentee, we gather at this time. It could just be like someone that you go to. Like, I know Victoria, one of the ladies of Sharing Lives, her name is Kimmy. Victoria would just call Kimmy up in random times and random occasions and be like, girl, I need you, I need the
That poor
counsel, I
woman.
need the help.
That poor woman, but she always answered, and she was always so gracious and kind every single time. But yeah, I'd call her sometimes crying, and she's like, "What's going on now, girl?" I'm like, "You don't even know, but let me tell you."
Well, I feel like if they don't have any of those programs, I think just talking to your pastor or anyone, they'll just connect you. I also feel like if you just attend a Bible study, I know a lot of times churches have like at-home Bible studies. If you attend any of those, you meet a ton of people, especially if you're attending one that's more geared towards like a general audience.
You could also recommend it too. I know, like, even though my church had like one-on-one mentorship, that they do assign you with. What was it that I did? I forgot what they named it, but I recommended to the young adult pastor, like, hey, what if like once every couple months we do a social with like the older people in the church? That way we can kind of bridge the gap and meet people outside of our age range. Because I do think sometimes it's easy to get comfortable and stick with people within your age.
Yeah, definitely good stuff. And I mean, we're just meant to live this life together, right? So I think when you kind of seek that counsel and you knock on that door, I know 100% God's going to answer that door. And whether you have a mentor or you're looking for a mentor, something that I would just look out for, a trait is kind of like the honesty, right? Because I think sometimes in this world, there's a lot of yes men and yes women, right? Where you'll tell them anything and they'll always just kind of encourage you when maybe the encouragement shouldn't be amplifying what you're doing, but maybe a change of direction, right? Maybe to look towards Christ. So, what are some characteristics you guys think that people should look out for in a good counselor?
I would say whenever I look for a mentor or some type of counselor, truthfully, I do look for someone that is a little bit older, who's kind of has gone through life, has experienced life, and has experienced like different trials and hardships. I do look for someone that, loves the Lord and, is obedient, but is also a human that can also be vulnerable. So I love someone that's also transparent and honest, but someone who knows the truth and is willing to share that truth, which is, Jesus, and what does Jesus say, or someone who's honest, where it's like, okay, like, we don't know, let's find the answer. Like, let's open up this book and let's see what God has to say about it. So I think for me, I always look for the vulnerability and transparency.
I like it. You know, that kind of reminded me of Job 12:12, where it says, wisdom is with the aged and the understanding in the length of days. Obviously, if you're much younger, there's like, because I think there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. So you can have a lot of knowledge about a lot of things, but I think wisdom is that life experience of applied knowledge. And I feel like most of the time you don't see that applied knowledge, aka wisdom, often when you're young, because as you age, obviously as time goes by, there's a lot of trial and error. So it's beautiful that the older people in the church, they have the opportunity to share a lot of their trial and errors through their own life to like impart to the younger generation.
And I don't think necessarily they need to have the same exact life experience as you, of like, oh, this person can't speak into my life because they haven't gone through the exact cookie cutter scenario as me. That's not true. You're not going to find anyone who's had the same exact experience as you. But like what everyone's saying, just someone with wisdom, someone who seeks the Lord ultimately. I think that's the most important thing.
Juan, do you Have you had like a mentor? Because I feel like for some weird reason, there's always more resources for the women in that area than the men.
For me, I've had seasons where I've had mentors, and then we've kind of like parted. I have a good set of mentors, especially like through family, like Crystal's dad, like other people, older people in the church that just speak life into me and I accept. But I think you're right, Tati. For women, I think it's much easier. Don't know if it's because maybe women have more of this internalized like nurturing element that they have with one another, but I think a lot of men kind of lack that sense of iron sharpening iron. With that being said, a lot of guys need to realize that, I think about Job and his friends, right? He had three friends. Job just went through probably some of the most extreme events a person can go through, right? He loses all his possessions, his family, like everything. And he has like these three great friends who like are older. They kind of speak life into Job. And, ultimately, they don't really console Job, but there's these three people in his life who are like pouring into him, and Job is listening. And I think that's kind of like the dynamic that my prayer is to a lot of people out there, is that sometimes we live in a very hypersensitive world where if someone tells you something, you just take it so personal. And I think maybe that's a problem with like a lot of guys in, I don't want to say in the church, but maybe just in general, where there could be a lot of pride when someone tells you that you're not doing the right thing. And I think that that's a culture that we need to break down. It's okay to hear that maybe the perspective that you have on something isn't aligning with Christ. It's not attacking you, it's attacking the broken world that we live in. As Christians, we need to be unified in Christ and understand that in every problem, we're fighting together, right? So it's not me versus you because you're doing something wrong or I'm doing something wrong. It's me versus you. It's more like there's something wrong. How do we together as a family combat this? And understandably, some people are like, I don't see what's wrong. And that element of time has to like kind of only the Holy Spirit work in. But what I truly believe, I guess to answer your question, Tati, is that there's a lot of pride in a lot of guys. I feel that maybe it's hard for them to get them out of their way.
Yeah, I think also adding on to the guy thing, I feel like just in general, a lot of churches, there's always more female than men, unfortunately. So that also might have a play.
I think that culture is changing though slowly, because even in some studies that I've been a part of recently, like Juan, like the study that we were in together, where Mark, someone that goes to our church, was like, hey, he brought all the guys together. And he's like, we need to get together. Like, we need to be, the men of God that he has called us to be. And we need to, be vulnerable and share with one another and really just help one another through the struggles that we have. And I thought that was really encouraging to watch, because I was like, oh, this is nice to kind of see like that brotherhood. But I think that's slowly changing in our culture, where it's like, no, like humility is across the board, seeking counsel is across the board. Like, as the Bible says, there is safety with many counselors. And
Well, guys, this kind of concludes our main topic of, seeking counsel. I just pray that everyone across the board, whether you have counselors, don't have counselors, that you seek a community with counselors, right? That you find people who you look for, that they're pouring into you, you pour into them, and they can speak life into your circumstances. So that's our prayer for you guys all listening today. This kind of wraps up our main topic point, but we're going into our favorite segment, Hot Take Time with Tati.
I don't know why I feel like I talk about games a lot recently, even though I haven't been playing games. But I found this one and I was like, that's actually a really good
not
question.
Monopoly.
No. Video games are better at storytelling than movies nowadays.
Nowadays, I would say yes. Nowadays, I wouldn't say that maybe 10 years ago, but I would say yes because okay, I'm a big stats numbers guy. So the market cap, or I guess the market value, which for everyone listening who doesn't know what that is, it's kind of saying like all the money inside the industry, right? How much is kind of in totality with the whole market estimated, right? There's estimated numbers. So with music, it's like $3 to $4 billion, right? And then movies is like 10 billion. So if you add them together, that's like a $14 billion industry. There's so much money that people pouring into just music and movies. I mean, it's a part of everyone's life who hasn't
Dude,
been.
look at the Snow White one and how it
Yeah.
just completely got shattered.
Okay, but you know what's crazy? So think about how much movies and music is part of your life. Well, video gaming, that industry is like $22 billion. So that means more people put in more money, time, and effort than how much money, time, and effort is spent on movies and music combined. So I would argue for today, for sure. I mean, you look at some of the games out there, they're so realistic and they're like almost virtual reality. So I think they do tell a story better, but it's hard because it's like comparing apples and oranges, right? Like a movie you just sit down and watch, while a game is kind of something you're interactively like doing.
Can I tell you the first thing that came to my mind when you asked this question?
What?
Literally, the only movie in my brain was Wicked or video games.
But what if they turned Wicked into a video game? I feel like the storytelling in that.
Well, here's my thing though. There's a lot more time to develop the story in a video game because you're playing infinite amount of time. Whereas a movie only has like 2 hours to do that. Whereas
So
people
wouldn't
play
you
video
say-
games every day.
Well, wouldn't you say then that because you would argue that a story that's more fleshed out is a greater story. So wouldn't a story that is longer than 2 hours be like better than the movie?
I say that some video games, like the ones you've shown me, Juan, have a good story, but they're all the same. They're all like, we're in a kingdom, and there's
That's
all these
straight cap.
people, and we have to rob this thing, and then we have to fight this person, and we have to go look for this. It's all the same.
Isn't that the same thing with movies though?
But there's no genres, at least that I'm aware of in
There
video
are
games.
genres.
It's not like this is a romance. This is a
There are
There actually
genres,
is stuff
even
like
thinking-
that.
But
Your
why are
sister,
they all
okay,
the
not trying to put
same?
your sister on blast. Hopefully she doesn't ever hears this. But I remember one time she had a romance playing game where like she played as the person
did.
responding to a boy. Like the boy's
what the
like,
heck are you guys
what do
talking
you-
about? Why don't I know about this?
because I
This-
caught her once. It was crazy.
It's real.
I'm
She plays
scared.
this game where you have to choose between two options. It's like, oh no, he just cheated on you. What are you going to choose? Stay with them or leave them and find someone better?
Okay, that's straight up dumb. No one can tell me that that's good storytelling. So we're just
Well,
gonna
people
exile.
play it.
Oh
That's
my
why your
They
God.
make
sister's
bank.
playing.
That's hilarious. But no, I just think movies are
I think
magical.
books. I think
And
books are way better than all of both
I
movie
agree.
and like video game.
double
Probably.
double
We can
click
agree.
that highlight for everyone.
Juan, do you even
annotating.
read?
I read the Bible. Just kidding. I used to read those adventure books where like you would turn to a page based off what you decided. Those were fun.
I didn't even know that existed.
Dude, those books are the best.
I think video games are changing though, because now they're adding like this whole AI element to it. So I'm very intrigued to see how that works out.
But right now, I guess long-winded answer for me, it's movies right now. Maybe in the future it'll change.
Dang, that's a hot take. Especially some of the movies out now are poo poo.
A lot of the
it's
movies
so-
are bad. They're either
it's-
remakes, second or sequels, remakes, or prequels. Those are the only.
Okay, I have to
things.
defend the film industry because I remember I saw this paper once where it was talking about that. Like they were interviewing all these big wigs in like cinema, and they're like, "Why isn't anyone doing something new?" And they're like, "Every time we put our like neck out there for some guy's like crazy new story, like it always gets destroyed. Like it does so bad, it flops. No one hears about it. No one ever wants to see it. I mean, think about every Oscar like winning movie from the last 3 years. No one has seen them, but they're original ideas. So like,
yeah,
what
that's
I'm
a
saying
whole
is
other conversation.
everyone's
Yeah,
just
I was
like
gonna say that's a different
watching. Everyone's
conversation.
watching like reruns, sequels. I think it's because people reminisce on the good times. Everyone needs to read Ecclesiastes 7:10. You know what I mean if you read it.
Yeah, okay, here's my thing that I just thought of. I think this is a post-COVID syndrome. I think during COVID, we all literally got a chance to think about our lives and we got so nostalgic. So post-COVID, all we want to see is the same stuff again. And we're all going to show up.
No, I just don't feel like the movies that are like coming out nowadays are great. And maybe
Okay,
that is
I'm
because
done
of
with live
COVID.
action.
But it's because none
Disney
of us are
movies.
watching it.
I'm done with the live action Disney movies. Like they were nice for some of them, but I think we're done. Like we've hit our max. Like
Wait, but I'm excited to see Lilo and Stitch. The little actress.
That's
looks
why
really
we're
cute.
maxed
Lilo and
out.
Stitch
That's
will
the
be
last
cute.
one.
Snow White sucked.
I
It was
didn't even
okay.
watch it.
Snow White was okay.
I didn't give her my big bucks, so okay. I'm gonna move on to the next hot take because this one was really long compared to how I expected. Still movie themed. I don't know why. But do you think butter popcorn is kind of mid?
Honestly, I'm not really a big popcorn person, so I'm whatever.
Kettle corn, kettle corn.
Crystal loves
kettle
popcorn.
corn.
I'm on the kettle corn side.
In El Salvador, they used to have caramel corn. So it's like just freaking covered in caramel. Like not caramel like the drizzle, but like it was like hard caramel. I don't know.
I think
how to
that's
explain
kettle
it.
corn.
No.
I was gonna say that sounds like the kettle corn one.
No, but it's like covered. It's like brown.
Like the ones you get for Christmas?
Kind of. Yep. But that's what you would get at the movie theater. Straight diabetes, but really good.
Wait, let me say, what is the perfect movie snack then for you guys? I'm going to go first, red vines or red ropes. Those are 10 out of 10.
Dude,
Why do you love
just
Red
unlocked-
40?
It's getting banned.
No.
They banned it.
It's okay.
They banned it. They banned artificial colors.
I know,
on, like,
I know.
food.
I'll have to get blue vines and blue rope. Okay, go ahead, Tati. What were you going to say?
I was gonna say you unlocked a core memory. When I was in middle school, we had like, I don't know if you guys had this, but we had like, oh, whoever can like get the most donations for whatever thing gets like a pizza party. And I really wanted that pizza party, so I made my parents take me to Costco and I bought a bucket of those red vines. And I told my classmates, you can get like 2 or 3 for $1 or like this much for 5. And I basically
You basically
finessed-
carried-
we still lost, which was
Oh
so
my
sad.
gosh. I was going to say, Tati, you just carried your class into a pizza party and you're telling me you still failed?
We still failed.
Tell me,
Dang.
you better not visit them for your high school reunion anymore.
Vic, what were you gonna say?
My go-to snack is the Annie Ann salted pretzel with cheese.
Where
That's
do you get those
disgusting.
in a movie theater?
Only at specific movie theaters.
She goes
They
to
have it at
IMAX,
Red
obviously.
Rock.
It's the bougie ones
'cause
that bring
she-
the food to your seat.
Okay,
That's
can I
not
tell you
even-
something?
that's not
I want to
even
go
the
to
one that
I want to go to a movie
to.
theater like that so bad. Where like,
I've been to them. They're nice.
have you been to the ones? Okay, there's one in
What the
Austin.
heck?
Wait, let me explain. There's one in Austin where like it's a restaurant, so they sit you down to an actual table and they like waiter everyone and then they bring you out food and you're basically sitting in a table, but it's kind of like open faced a little bit. And in the center is your table and then you have all your food and then they play the movie.
The one I went to, they closed it, but I think they just reopened another one in that same location. You would still order in line. I would get like a burger and then they would like literally drop it off while you're watching the movie.
All right, everyone. Well, that concludes this episode. It's been a great and wonderful time learning about mentorship, talking about little things we used to collect, and apparently the statistics of video games and movies. So, this
Learn something
episode,
new every day.
yeah, this episode really had it all. So if you didn't know something, watch this episode and you'll learn something. But anyway, we love you guys, praying for you, and we'll see you next time. Bye.